Hey everyone, I just wanted to put out a couple suggestions today on using a teepee as a bug out type of shelter or a super shelter type of thing. But you see a lot of examples online of people carrying different assortment sizes of tarps and mylar sheets or survival blanket type of things. Um, Maybe tents. I don't really see that quite as much, but I think you need to think about a few things when you're looking at that. And one of them is lightweight and ease of setup, and also longevity of use. You want something that's going to last you for a long time. And a $10 or $20 tarp, when it's exposed to the sun and rain, it develops weaknesses, and they do rip pretty quickly. But this teepee, and I'm suggesting this, there's a lot of different teepees, I'm sure, and the ones that I'm talking about aren't the cheapest things, but are definitely worth the investment, and it's something that you can just scratch off your list. Um, but the ones that I'm familiar with are lightweight teepees that are made for backpacking and alpine type timberline setups. Today's extremely windy, so they pitch really well, and the wind kind of goes all around the sides. It really isn't affected too much by that, so that's an excellent thing. But you can set these up in about 5 minutes or less. There's a few. I'll just mention the name. One of my favorites that I would suggest looking at is the Seek Outside Cimarron. With a heated system in there, you can fit 4 people, a family or something, if you needed to, and a dog or two with wood in that one. And the basic setup before you get the center pole in, you just stake 4 rectangular corners out. So you can do that in even under a minute or two if you know what you're doing, so you can get out of the rain weather really quickly. And that particular unit, I think, if I remember right, is about 35 ounces. So 2 pounds, 3 ounces, and you get a shelter for 4 people, possibly more if you were sitting up or crammed in there. You really could do more if you didn't have cots. I never have cots. That's just not the way I backpack or travel. So we use these little ridge rests and some Thermarest inflatables if it's cold or anything. So for 2 pounds and 3 ounces, about for that shelter, compared to a 4-season. I used a 4-season North Face 2.5 person tent that was 6-7 pounds at least. The North Face Nebula, which was a wonderful tent, but it had nowhere near the capabilities that this teepee has as far as life-saving shelter. So I wanted to mention that about the weight savings, because especially if you go minimum and you just have a small knife, it doesn't take anything. Today actually I've got the little Tom Brown tracker, which does everything honestly that a real woodsman would really need to do. This little mini version, teeny, but you really don't need that in these type of shelters, and I'm going to explain to you why that is also. Even if you're running a stove, which we always do in the winter time in these, it's 30 degrees outside now with 30-40 mile an hour gusts, and it's 74 at the floor temperature with the setup that we have going just on these little ridge rest cheapy pads. But to save weight, you don't need to take the stakes. You can just find some good sturdy twigs and snap them. They almost always have a sharp enough point. If the ground isn't too frozen, you can hammer those in, or baton, use those stakes in a branch that you find that's of a stout wood variety to use as a center pole, so you can save a little bit of weight there. So really, if you're trying to do an ultralight system, which is always a consideration, especially in a bug out scenario, you're going to want to pack up quickly and be able to move if you hear a gunshot or voices in the distance, whatever the case may be. You want to be able to get your shelter down and up again as quickly as possible. So realistically, I see a lot on the internet, you see people building like long-term settlement, almost a homestead, if they were going to be out in the same place for 6 or 8 months. Well, if you put all your eggs in one basket like that, and you got a bigger, stronger guy, or 10 guys come up, they're going to kick you right on out of your spot, take whatever that is of value, and you're going to be down to square one with nothing. So being able to evade quickly is paramount. I can't stress that enough. So carrying this teepee, you've got a shelter for 4 people or more, but 4 could sleep in this thing. It wouldn't be the most comfortable, but it'd be fine with wood and a stove. We're using this stove here. We've been testing it out, and it actually works great. It's the lightest weight option I've found. It's a few ounces for this little elbow here. I'll show you. I'll get a close up and show you a little bit more. An important thing about keeping things lightweight and simple is that you've got to be able to move fast, and having a 25 or 35 or 45 pound pack, the average person, unless you're a military grunt that's trained for that, or you're really trained cardio, it doesn't have anything to do with big muscles, I'll tell you that. It has to do with if you've practiced rolling through the woods with a 45 pound pack on trying to get away from somebody. That's what I'm getting at here. So you got to keep it as small and lightweight and simple as possible. And if you don't know how to use something, eliminate that item. Go out and practice so you figure out exactly what you really need and what serves the most purposes, and choose that to put in your gear. But like I said, an axe in this system adds 2 pounds or 3 pounds, I think, for a good axe, a normal woodsman's axe. And if you put 3 pound axe in a backpack with a liter of water and a couple pounds worth of backpack, the normal person's going to be huffing and puffing just after 3/4 of a mile of walking fast with a 5 or 6, 8 pound system on. So I can't stress that enough. You've got to be able to get away from people and get to space as fast as possible. And with a lot of backpacking experience, I can tell you this, that these guys that are making great time on the Appalachian Trail and the PCT and stuff are carrying 30 pounds of gear and food with a resupply a few days in between here and there, and hiking 20 miles a day. But you see people out there with 60 pound packs, and they're throwing their stuff all over the place on the side of the trail. So keep that in mind. It's one of the biggest factors that I think is often overlooked, but keep the weight in mind, and maybe I'll follow up with a few other suggestions kind of based on that category. But super important when you're thinking about a lightweight, get out of there quick type of system that still will keep you alive. Okay, I've shown this in another video, but this is just a small elbow ducting pipe, 3-inch, and it fits into this titanium stovepipe, which is common on all the websites for these Seek Outside's website, and Kifaru and Tygoat as well. They have these lightweight aluminum, titanium, stovepipes with a small little damper setup that work fantastic in it. The weight on those is 2 ounces per foot. So whatever they say on your website, I would get an extra 6 inches of that. I found it does protect the fabric if it's extremely gusty, and if you have wet wood, and it just keeps your fabric protected a little bit more. But so you have 2 ounces a foot, so if you have 6 feet or so here, you got 12 ounces of weight right there, and then about 3 ounces for this little elbow here, and you have a heated system. And most people, like I said earlier, when you're thinking about having a heated shelter, you're thinking about carrying an axe and a saw of some sort and a knife, or all 3. But we never carry an axe. I think the axe is the most dangerous tool. I understand that knowledge and practice and all that, but still, even an experienced axeman still is more likely to get injured by using an axe than not using an axe. So if you don't have to use it and you're comfortable without it, I say avoid that. You're much more likely to cause a serious injury in the woods. And a folding saw is the better option, but you don't need that necessarily. You can feed this with good snappy dry deadwood that you find hanging, and keep it in long lengths. These were a few feet when we started, and we got a good little bit of coals going in there, so we just feed these in a little bit at a time, and that's keeping the temperature too in the low 70s at the ground level. We do have a small rechargeable fan at the pole going to blow the heat back down to the floor also. but you don't need an axe. Just practice without it, but you can find good snappy wood, and if you feed this thing, you can get really good life-saving temperatures and cook dry out gear. So don't think heavy when you're thinking teepees, and don't think too many other accessories, but you can't do this with a little gas or propane stove and be reliable in the woods. You just can't do it. Your fuel's going to run out eventually, so the best way is just get familiar with fire, and this will do everything that you need it to do for as light a weight as possible, basically right around a pound. And you have a heated shelter, a cooking system, and a clothes dryer, morale booster, all in one. So I wanted to throw all that out there for you to consider when you're looking at putting something in your kit. This one packs up relatively small. The Cimarron is a coconut size bundle, so it's just easy to tuck in anywhere, and it's lighter than almost any substantially good quality four-season tents, that's for sure. So check those out and see if it fits your needs. But if you have a family or a group that you're considering, and if it's even just you, I would really consider the Cimarron or the Silver Tip. You can have a couple extra guests coming and going, or a couple of dogs, but you can have extreme comfort. I'm 6'7", so I can almost stand up fully straight in these, and take advantage of that when you're getting dressed or changing clothes, and trying to stretch out a little bit if you're in one of these in a significant amount of time, a bad storm. It's just the overall comfort and utility of these is far superior to any other structure that you can get. Easy to set up, fast to deploy, and then take down is simple also. The stove, that you can see it on their other websites, but this pipe, it looks like it would be a huge thing to carry, but it rolls up to about maybe 3 inches by 8 or 9 inches, so maybe like 2 Coke cans or something on top of each other, but it's super easy to maneuver and carry. Lightweight stainless rings keep it together. So I encourage you to try this. This is a $5 part, and I think this is maybe $5 or $6, $10 a foot. I can't remember exactly, but it's lasted. You can see this one's gotten crushed and smashed, but it's lasted for years now. I think this is the 4th or 5th year of hard use for this particular pipe, and it's still got a lot of life left in it, I feel. So it's not a huge expenditure there. And these teepees, this one was on sale for $350 or something, but the Cimarron, I think, is comparable to that price. I've never owned a Kifaru. I have their packs, and I could do another video on that about why I chose their pack for me. But anyway, I know they're all outstanding USA quality, which is big to me also, so I wanted to encourage everyone to check those out instead of your standard options. And unless you're really good with Mylar and plastic and you want to go through that whole system, it's much more comfortable to bring your wood into your shelter. You don't have any smoke in your face, and you've got a comfortable, warm environment. It just makes all the difference. Thanks a lot for watching. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have any, but just keep that in mind when you're making choices and shopping around. Thank you.